All right, hi, and welcome to the Fantasy Six Pack Network. My name is Joe Bond, founder of FantasySixPack.net. We're going to be talking some Las Vegas Raiders with Matt Holder from SB Nation. How's it going, man?
Going pretty good, Joe. How you doing?
I'm hanging in there, just churning through all these videos, getting a lot of good information for my fantasy drafts. I love it. So before we jump into things, though, just want to remind everybody, hit that subscribe button, like button, leave comments. We appreciate it and love hearing from you. And, of course, jump over to FantasySixPack.net, become an all-access member. You're going to get access to the award-winning rankings, my draft cheat sheet. We got player projections, DFS and betting advice. If you play baseball, basketball, hockey, we got all that stuff, too. So go on over there, sign up, use promo code F6PPODS, and save 15%. All right, Matt, let's jump right into things here. And new quarterback on the team now. How has Geno Smith been looking at camp so far, commanding this Raiders offense under offensive coordinator Chip Kelly?
Yeah, so I don't know if it's just the last few years with the quarterback play the Raiders have had with between Gardner Minshew, Jimmy Garoppolo, Aiden O'Connell thrown in the mix there. But Geno's been a nice breath of fresh air so far. I mean, he's been operating the offense pretty well. I know for one thing, the biggest thing I was excited about when they brought him in is I think he opens up the deep passing game a lot more than it's been in the last few years. The guys they had in the past didn't have the strongest arms in the world, and I think that was one of their big pitfalls where it just struggled for the whole offense because defenses could load up the box and stuff like that. So obviously that impacted the running game. But I think with Geno in the under center, he's kind of opened up the offense a little bit more. And I think on top of that, too, he's just a veteran quarterback that has experience and has played pretty well in the past for the Seahawks for his last 5 years or so. So he's definitely been much improved over what they've had over the last few years. And so far, he's been doing pretty well. He has thrown a few interceptions in training camp and stuff like that. That's kind of what you got to take with Geno. He is a little bit of that risk taker where he'll drop a nice bomb every now and again, and then he'll also throw a pick every now and again too. So I think for the most part, it's been pretty good, and he's been clicking the offense so far this season, or so far in training camp, I should say.
Yeah, so we'll just stick in that receiver, passing area right now. Jakobi Meyers, I would believe is still the leader of this receiver room. Anybody's been standing out? Any of these younger guys been standing out? That's going to be the wide receiver 2.
Yeah, but I think there's 2 guys that kind of come to mind. One guy is Trey Tucker. He's been on the team for 2 years now, going into his 3rd season. And he, to me, is the guy that kind of benefits the most from having Geno as at quarterback. Like I said before, with the old quarterbacks, a lot of it was the vertical passing game was lacking. And that's Trey Tucker's strength. He ran a 4.3 coming out of Cincinnati. And, there was a stat floating around by, I believe it was Joe Marino, who posted it early in the offseason. Trey Tucker last season had the 4th most uncatchable targets thrown his way, and he still improved his production last season. And I think he improved a lot as a route runner. Like I said at the beginning, he was a little bit more of a deep threat, but he's become a lot better in the intermediate areas. And I think with having a quarterback like Geno that fits his skill set, I think he's kind of really going to take off. I keep throwing it out there. Geno and Tyler Lockett had a lot of success together in Seattle. And I think if you compare Trey Tucker skill set wise and size wise, those guys compare pretty well. So that's kind of the trajectory I see him on. I think it's going to be a big year 3 for him, which I think is when a lot of receivers kind of have that make or break year and kind of come into their own in the NFL. And the other guy's a little bit more of a surprise. Dante Thornton out of Tennessee. He's a rookie 4th round pick this past season. Right. He was a guy when they drafted him. No one had any doubts about his speed. Another 4.3 guy, but at 6'5". And had plenty of that, fit that Al Davis height, weight, speed model. But the biggest question was about how he could develop his route tree and become more of a route runner and become a more complete receiver. But ever since he stepped on the field in OTAs and minicamp, he's already been leaps and bounds ahead of I think where anybody thought he was, myself included. I didn't think much. He didn't think he was going to be much from him this season. But he's been working with the starting offense and kind of stayed there since the spring and has continued to show out in training camp. So he's a guy that I think is probably a little bit more under the radar that you might want to keep tabs on, especially from a fantasy perspective. I don't know if I'd go ahead and draft him or anything like that, but he's a guy that you at least want to put on the watch list, kind of keep your eye on. If he ends up having a good start to the season, he could really thrive in this offense with a guy like Geno. So those would be my 2 outside of Jakobi Meyers, would be Trey Tucker and Dante Thornton to keep tabs on.
I like the Thornton call there. I like that. Brock Bowers, the amazing tight end from historic rookie season, obviously.
Yeah.
Any changes to workload concerns here with the new coaching regime here?
Not really. I mean, I think you talked about it a little bit with the receiving core. You kind of hinted at it. There's not a ton of like depth in that area. This offense is going to run, or at least the passing game is going to run through Brock Bowers still. I think it's going to pretty comparable to what Kansas City has with Travis Kelce, where they're going to run their passing game. They're going to run their offense through Travis Kelce, and he's going to be their number one target. I think you can say the same with Brock Bowers. He basically is their wide receiver one, if you really want to look at it and really want to boil it down. So I don't see any sort of lapse from him coming up this year. I mean, he had, like you said, the most historic season, the best season of a rookie tight end in NFL history, and did it with subpar quarterback play. So I think you upgrade at that position. I think that's only going to help him out. The Raiders are running quite a bit of 12 personnel this year, getting Michael Mayer a little more involved in the offense with Chip Kelly coming aboard and with Mayer kind of getting entering in that third season. But I do think, if you look at Chip Kelly's history in the NFL, he's done a pretty good job of getting two tight ends involved in the passing game, whether it was Brent Selleck and a rookie Zach Ertz back in the day with the Eagles, or even with the Niners, where I know he didn't have a ton of success in that one season, but if you go back and look at the numbers, like he was able to get two tight ends to the rock. So I definitely think, I don't think there's any reason to think that Brock Bowers isn't going to have another good year, and I think he's going to be a guy that's going to threaten for 1,000 yards and probably be one of the more productive tight ends in the NFL again. Just how he played last season. I don't see any sort of regression coming.
Yeah, absolutely amazing. Guys getting drafted in the second round and for good reason in fantasy. Yeah. So, all right, jumping over here to the running back and the bright new shiny toy that everybody's excited about, Ashton Jeanty. Is he as good as advertised?
It's funny. Jordan Schultz just dropped a report earlier today where he was just basically saying that, confirming what you said or answering your question, basically saying he's been as advertised. And I think a little bit more. I think when you think about Ashton Jeanty, he can run tote the rock for sure. Rushed for 2,000 yards, had the second best season of any running back in college football history behind Barry Sanders last year. And I think that's definitely been present in training camp. But I think where he's kind of surprised a lot of people, or where there were some questions about him, was him as a receiver. And he's actually shown a lot as a route runner. Boise State, I don't know if it was last year, if he was in the game, he was going to get the ball in handoffs or whatnot, but they didn't really use him much in the passing game. And I know in 2023, he had a lot of, he had like 500 receiving yards, 500 plus receiving yards, but a lot of it were on like a lot of simple concepts like swing routes and stuff like that, that were basically just long handoffs. So that was one concern, or I don't know if concern's the right word. One question I had about him coming out of college was, can he be like that guy that can run routes out of the backfield? And he's proven it already in training camp. There's been plenty of clips of social media of him toasting guys that are toasting defenders and one-on-ones and stuff like that. So he's definitely I'd say he's been as advertised and probably exceeded expectations. I think he's going to be a big part of this offense coming up.
He running those like wheel routes, burning linebackers up the sideline.
Exactly, yeah, and it's funny. Nice. He shows a little nuance too, where he'll fake a choice route and like kind of give him like the linebacker hesitation, and then go and win over the top. So again, that was
fantastic.
I didn't really see much of him, but much from him on tape, but he's already kind of shown already.
So secondary question, are they just going to hand the keys to this guy right away, and like it's going to be pretty much all him, or are we going to see like a Mostert or whoever else kind of there? I know, Pete Carroll really leaned on Marshawn Lynch for years, right? That's kind of his MO. But any inkling that somebody else is going to be involved enough to matter?
I don't think you spend the number 6 overall pick on a running back in general and not kind of give him the rock a lot. And I think, as Raheem Mostert, I think he definitely could be an RB2. Zamir White has apparently been impressing in training camp, but we've kind of heard that song and dance before, and it hasn't exactly worked out. So I think Ashton Jeanty is going to get the lion's share of the carries in Las Vegas this year and in the next 3 to 4 years. So yeah, I don't really see that anyone else kind of really splitting carries with him. I think part of the reason why the Raiders drafted Jeanty so high and why a lot of people felt like it was a good pick was because of the rest of the running back room. Mosert's getting older, coming off a year where he was banged up a little bit and had his lowest production in a while. So I don't think the arrow's exactly pointing up for him. Zamir White, you can say a little bit of the same. So I really think Ashton Jeanty is gonna lead the team in carries and probably significantly this season.
Yeah, that is a popular opinion, and I would have to agree.
Yeah.
All right, so you've already mentioned one kind of under the radar guy here. Is there anybody else under the radar on this offense that could emerge as like a bigger contributor than people would expect? Somebody that, again, fantasy managers maybe not draft, but just kind of keep an eye on, keep on that little watch list, type of thing.
Yeah, I touched on him a little bit earlier. I think Michael Mayer can maybe be that if you kind of have some issues with your tight end spot and you need a guy who's probably going to be like a touchdown or bust type of player. I think that's one of the biggest strong suits when he got drafted. What was it, 3 years ago now? The Raiders have been notoriously bad in the red zone for the last several years. And if you go back and look at his like senior year at Notre Dame, I think 4 out of 6 of his touchdowns came in the red zone, and then the other 2 were within the 30. So that's kind of where he thrives a lot. And I think he could be a good contested catch guy. And like I was saying earlier, Chip Kelly does have a track record of being able to get 2 tight ends involved in the passing game. So I think he might be a guy that's a little bit under the radar that would at least be worth keeping an eye on. He's also had a really good camp so far, caught a bunch of touchdowns in that scoring area from Geno Smith so far. So he's another guy that's been drawing pretty strong reviews from the Raiders out of training camp so far.
What about a guy, another receiver who I know is popular in dynasty formats, especially early on? He was John Beck.
Jack Betch?
Jack. Yeah. Sorry, Jack.
Yeah. Good. You're good. Yeah.
My bad.
So Betch, he's an interesting one. He was a guy that when they drafted him, I kind of expected him to be the role I was talking about with Dante Thornton, where he was going to be that wide receiver too. He didn't seem to be getting quite as much buzz, or at least not much as Thornton so far. So he's someone I think maybe you can keep an eye on. I just don't know how big of a role he's going to be. I know early on they were just having him play like almost exclusively in the slot and behind Jakobi Meyers. Mm-hmm. So he might be a little bit more of a, like you said, the dynasty leagues might be more of a year 2 guy that ends up putting up notable production. But he's definitely a guy I would keep tabs on for sure, because I do think he has like a pro-ready skill set, if you will. But he hasn't been getting quite as much buzz with whereas compared to some of these other receivers so far.
Interesting. Yeah. Like I said, I know he's been somebody drafted in like all my rookie drafts, and he goes pretty late but he does sometimes get drafted in my redraft league. So that is interesting to hear. I will probably pass on him for sure now. So, all right, man. Well, Matt, I want to thank you for coming on. This was great information. Before we jump, give you the chance to promote what you got going on, where you can find you.
Yeah, so you can find me on Twitter. My handle's right up there on the screen, at mholder95. I post most of my articles up on there. Also do some draft stuff for Bleacher Report, and got a YouTube channel doing some film breakdowns if got any Raider fans. That's Tape Don't Lie. So come check us out. Appreciate it for having me on.
All right. Yeah, great stuff. And remember to hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, check out some of those other videos. They are great stuff. See you next time.